Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. Thursday, May the 11th, Ian Cameron with you, and we are joined once again by another guest joining us on the show. We've had a bunch of good guests lately, and we've got Pat. I don't want to screw this up. Gillis, did I get it right?
You got it.
I almost said Giles. But I'm like, wait a minute, he's got two L's in there. I don't think it's Giles. All right, we got it right. See, I didn't ask you when we were talking before the show started how to pronounce that. I was going to say, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants, and I'm going to see if I can fucking nail it on my own.
Nailed it.
And I did. Good stuff. Pat Gillis joining us here on the Thursday edition of the Ice Guys, former hockey player. And welcome to the show, Pat. Good to have you with us. Tell us about the Pat Gillis hockey life, if you will.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. It's a pleasure being here. So, I live in Madison, Wisconsin, big college community. The Badgers fed a lot of pros, so that's always fun growing up in this area. I played college at St. Olaf in Minnesota, kind of moved back here and coaching a lot of, in the summer program, ex-NHL guys, current NHL guys, and leading my son's youth hockey team as well.
Good stuff. And you're still how many years did you play? What position did you play, by the way, at St. Olaf?
Yeah, I was center. I played 4 years. True freshman, played center position, kind of forward and defense all around, and relied on my legs, I would say, the most. So
there you go. And that's especially this day and age in the NHL, the ability to skate with not only with speed, with precision, and obviously play a 200-foot game is just so important these days. You can't just be one-dimensional. You definitely have to have that strong skating stride, that strong skating ability. No question about that. And you're still coaching hockey and coaching the youth these days as well, right?
You got it. And it's amazing the difference when I was growing up to what it is now. All these kids have personal trainers and dietitians and massage therapists, and, they're on the ice twice a day. It's a different ball game out there for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And again, you're running a local gym as well right now in Madison, Wisconsin. Before we even get into the NHL stuff, Pat, we do have to mention we talked before. You're in the state of Wisconsin. You're a Green Bay Packers fan. Is Aaron Rodgers now public enemy number one? Is that beautiful honeymoon type relationship with him over now that he's with the New York Jets?
If you're a Packer fan, absolutely. I mean, he chose the other pretty girl, right? So now he's out. He's public enemy number one, and we have high hopes for Jordan Love, but I think there's going to be a little grace period to see, how it goes. But yeah, the drama, the whole shenanigans, it's good to get out of there.
Yeah, it's time for a change, right? I think he was ready to move on. Packers were ready to move on. I think it was an amicable split between the two sides. And of course, now Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets. It was just announced, by the way, today, it's NFL schedule release day, that the New York Jets are opening up on Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, an AFC East division battle, Monday Night Football to get the season started. So welcome to New York, Aaron Rodgers. You're going to be in the spotlight right off the hop. A primetime game against probably the team to beat in the division once again.
9-11 game, right? Go Buffalo.
Yep. So. Yeah, it is. It's going to be definitely a great way to kick off the NFL season for sure. Stanley Cup playoffs, Pat. Let's get into it. First, just overall thoughts from the first round, if you have anything. Obviously, Boston was the huge upset, but what are your observations, and what are your strongest, observations and thoughts and opinions on what we've seen so far?
Yeah, one thing is the goal scoring. So these big swings. And I think we touched on this a little bit, but it's, it seems like the team that is going to dominate it one night comes out flat the other night, and home ice means nothing. So almost that away team seems a little more hungry, a little more driven, and almost better odds to get it done. It's been fun to watch, though, for sure. Some good storylines there.
Yeah, there have been definitely some incredible storylines. Only the defending Stanley Cup champions getting knocked out in the first round. Only one of the all-time great regular seasons in NHL history, from the Boston Bruins, getting knocked out in the first round as well. So, there have been some just remarkable stories here so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's chat about last night's games that we saw in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, we had 2 games last night. We begin in Florida. And the Toronto Maple Leafs they just drag their fan base right back into the mix. Every single time the Leaf fans say, "Hey, look at this, we're going to be gone in four maybe or get swept," and now the Leafs just dangling that little ray of hope out there for their fans, their long-suffering fans. And Toronto at least avoids the sweep. The brooms get put away. They don't come out in Florida last night, and Toronto with the 2-1 win. Pat, the difference to me in this game was very simple. There were no passengers last night. Not a single fucking Leaf on the ice last night was a passenger. Everybody was locked in from the opening faceoff, and I've been ranting and raving on this show for the last several shows when it comes to the Leafs, talking about the lack of battle level, hard on pucks. To win battles in the playoffs, you have to be hard on your stick. You have to just be wanting to outwork the guy that you're battling with along the boards, along the wall for a loose puck. Those are the players that win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And Toronto, wasn't doing a good enough job of that. They're losing like Kachuk and Verhaeghe and Barkov. They're winning all these puck battles. Toronto wasn't. Last night it was different. I saw the core 4, especially Matthews and Marner in particular. They were more physical. They were throwing their weight around. I think last night was the most hits Mitch Marner's had in a game all season. And I think Matthews, too, one of his leading number of hits for the entire season as well. Everybody was on board. Everyone just played a harder, more tenacious, more of a will to win style of hockey, which you need in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And they played an airtight defensive game. And Joe Wall, the kid out of Missouri, had a very solid game. When he had to make the big saves, he did. He was there for his team, and they helped him out quite a bit. I thought their defensive game was spectacular, and they controlled the game most of the way. The only complaint is they probably should have won that game 5-1 because they had a bunch of chances. Tavares had a breakaway. Bobrovsky did everything he could to hold Florida in it. They've still got to do a little bit of a better job, finishing with their high-level chances. They still left some goals on the table there, the Leafs, last night, not burying some of the great, incredible chances they had. But at the end of the day, they played the right way. They finally showed a level of desperation and urgency that you need to in the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially with your backs against the wall. I wish we had seen it Game 3. I'm sure the Leaf fans do as well, but they at least showed it last night to avoid the sweep, and now they at least get that series back to Toronto for Game 5 on Friday night. Yeah, the second goal was a little bit of a break for the Leafs. The first goal, I should say, that opened the scoring, it ricocheted off the referee, John McIsaac, in the corner, right off his knee, essentially, and it bounced right in front to William Nylander. And of course, Bobrovsky's not set at that point, and Nylander was able to finish it with the backhand for the first Leaf goal. And then the second goal was one of those classic playoff goals, shot from the point. Mitch Marner through traffic. Bobrovsky couldn't see it because the Leafs did a good job taking his eyes away, and that made it 2-0 for Toronto. Again, 2 goals that were, the first one a little lucky, but the second goal was a playoff goal. You got to get traffic in front of the net, bodies in front of the net. You got to go to the tough areas of the ice to score, and they did that. So credit to Toronto. And now we'll see what happens Game 5. It would be so Leafs, Pat, to turn around and lose 5-1 in Game 5 on home ice and go to 1-5 at home in the playoffs, because the Leafs have not played well at home here in the playoffs. They're just 1-4 on home ice here in the playoffs. It would be so Leafs to see their season end at home. But I'll tell you what, if they actually do win Game 5 and it gets back to Florida for Game 6, then the momentum shifts, and then the doubt maybe starts to creep in a little bit more for the Florida Panthers. So Game 5 is an important one. Pat, what did you think of that one last night as the Leafs win Game 4?
Yeah, like you said, I think having that rookie goalie and the whole team rallied around that. So you could see they changed things up. Forecheck, they had a little more lockdown. People bought into their positions, but everyone played everywhere on the ice. So it wasn't just the goal scorers trying to score. Like you said, Marner's throwing his body around. Same with Matthews. I think that's what it's going to take. And when they know they have a goalie that's a little shaky, they got to rally around that to give them some confidence and maybe win those one-on-one battles a little harder. And it showed. So I'm a little tentative to say that heading home, it's going to be another W just because the Leafs track record. But, I'm optimistic that they'll build on what they just did.
Yes, and that's all you can hope for. And look, when it comes to the Leafs as well, that home ice environment they've got to help the team. The team has to give the fans a reason to cheer Friday night in Game 5, but the fans have to be ready to make noise right from the beginning. And that's not always the case in Toronto, Pat. I've said this on this show for years. The crowd environment at Scotiabank Arena, as it's now called, it's a wine and cheese crowd. It really is. There's a lot of suits, a lot of the richer CEO, company executive types go to the Leaf games, especially during the season, in their suits, and they don't make noise. Some of them don't even fucking pay attention to the game. They're chatting about business. I've been to Leaf games there, Pat. I'm sitting, there's two guys that were down there in front of me. They're in their suits. They're talking business the whole time, and they're not even watching the game. They're just looking at each other, just talking shop. Like, why the hell do you come to a hockey game, guys? You're not even watching what's going on. You're not even reacting to anything that's going on. If you're going to do that, keep your ass home. What, you just buy a ticket so you can show off in your big fancy suits and your big money and flaunt and all that shit? Stay home. I don't want you in the building. That's the kind of fan that we're attracting into this building, keep them out, as far as I'm concerned.
Paying $2,000 for a ticket too. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, get your hands there. It's not like Green Bay Packer game. I'll tell you that much. People buy a ticket and it's like the one thing they do a year. You know what I mean? So they spend everything. They come no shirt on in the dead of winter, face paint, whatever. They sacrifice it. So it would be nice to see the fans kind of get up for that in Toronto.
No, that's definitely not the crowd that Toronto's getting. There's no question about that. And it's a shame. And that's why it's such a quiet, silent environment. Like, Toronto should be one of the loudest buildings in the NHL just because of the prestige of the franchise, the tradition of it, how passionate the hardcore Leaf fans are, but none of them can get in the building. The tickets are very expensive, especially in playoff time. And it's the corporate types that litter the building and just don't make noise. And like I said, I've been to Leaf games where they're not even watching the game, these people. And it just boggles the mind that they're there buying tickets and they're not there to watch what they're supposed to be there for. It's pretty crazy indeed. What do you make of Florida, Pat? This Florida team. Do you feel the same way as I do, where they're relentless? They're like a dog on the bone when it comes to going after loose pucks. Now, last night Toronto finally matched them in that department, but Florida's been just tenacious on the forecheck. I love Paul Maurice. Yeah, he had another classic press conference last night where he's like, "Hey, we lost a game. It happens." I think we come back and we play Friday night, he said. We play I think we have another game, he says, Friday night. And then he's like, it's like trying to calm down the reporters. And he's like, oh my gosh, for fuck's sakes, it's going to be okay, guys. He's just trying to say, hey, it's not the end of the world that we didn't finish this series in 4 games. But then I remember Florida's season turning for the better when it was actually a game in Toronto during the regular season. He snapped. He lost it on the bench, and he called them your fucking bitches. And he just ripped their effort and their performance in that game. And really from that night, that's when they made that tear down the stretch. They made that run late regular season to get into the playoffs. Alex Lyon was their goalie late in the season. He played extremely well. And that Paul Maurice just tearing a strip off his team in public on the bench in the second period of that Leaf game in the regular season, that got Florida going, and they haven't looked back since.
Bunch of hungry dogs, right? There's something to prove. Every one of them seems like they kind of got cast aside and gathered in Florida and got a little, confidence going with believing in each other, giving a chance, and the chance they took it. And they're the hot team right now, right? They're the gritty team. Kachuk is, I tell you what, the pedigree of the playoff experience is unbelievable. And the goalie, world-class goalie. When you get a hot goalie in this sport, it's tough. You got to get lucky bounces or, screen in front. That's the way it's going to get done. And that obviously showed last game, but Florida's a tough team. It's a tough physical team that no one wants to play against, right?
They don't. And look, and they're playing the right way now. Paul Maurice wanted this to be more of a harder forecheck team, a heavier team, more of a cycle team. If you remember last year when they were President's Trophy winners, they were a regular season team. fly up and down the ice, incredible speed, incredible goal scoring ability, and offensive outburst. And they still have the offense too, but man, they play way more of a complete game now. Paul Maurice was dogged and determined all year to get them to play this way. And early in the season, they had a hard time adjusting. They're basically going from a rush chance team, and a transition team to more of a heavier forecheck, cycle the puck, sustained possession in the offensive zone type of team. Completely different from the way they played last year. And I think they struggled with it early on, but then late in the season, they caught fire. They started, and plus goalie Bob. Let's be honest, goalie Bob, Sergei Bobrovsky, he has found his Vezina form or close to it here in the playoffs. I don't know where it went. Where was it last year? Where was it 2 years ago? Where was it early this season? When he's been up and down, he'd have one good game and he'd give up 5 or 6 the next game and get pulled. That's been Bobrovsky's career really the last couple of years. And all of a sudden he's found that Vezina form and he's been consistent game in and game out. He is the reason that was a 1-goal game last night. Toronto was definitely the better team, but that game was still close right to the end because of Sergei Bobrovsky. I think, Pat, his turnaround, it's been a big part of it, and it's pretty surprising because I don't think he's ever going to get back to that Vezina form, Bobrovsky, because we've just seen it for years now, up one game, down the next. But man, he's found it again at the right time.
Yeah, it's all a game of confidence, right? And goalies, if they get hot, it's not much you can do at times. So, but no, he's found a way to, whether he lost it and it's back or just ebbed and flowed, but he's the real deal right now.
Yeah, he is. And again, a big reason why Florida beat Boston, especially late in the series. He got better there. And here in the Toronto series, he's been really good as well. Next, the other game last night, Vegas and Edmonton. We were talking before the show started with Pat and I that this has been just a bet the team off a loss series. It's been crazy where game one was the only close game. Vegas won it. But then Edmonton just power play, just did a tap dance on Vegas in the first period. They had that beautiful Connor McDavid shorthanded breakaway goal too. That was a thing of beauty to go up 3-0. It was all Edmonton. And then Vegas comes back in game 3 in Edmonton, and they win 5-1, the same score Edmonton won in game 2 in Vegas, 5-1. So this has been a great series. It's been Edmonton second. I was on Edmonton in game 2, especially early, first period. I took Vegas first period and the money line, full game, in game 3. Last night, my best bet for the Ice Guys show yesterday was Edmonton first period puck line, -0.5 at +135. So Edmonton basically to win the first period, they were up 3-0. And again, it was that bounce back theory where these are two very good teams. The team that just won the last game, we talked about this, not really the meticulous preparation and adjustments. It's not there when you have a nice, comfortable 5-1 lead. You think, oh, what a huge win. We can just, try to roll back what we did the previous game, not do too much to change things. Meanwhile, the team that just got their ass beat 5-1. Do you know what they're doing? They're working overtime, looking at the film. What can we do better? What adjustments can we make? The coach is looking to make line changes. They realize, hey, we didn't start the game well, and they just are ready and locked in from the opening puck drop. We've seen it repeatedly in this series. We saw it from Edmonton in game 2 after they lost game 1. We saw it from Vegas in game 3 after they lost game 2. And we saw it last night from Edmonton in game 4 after they lost game 3. It's just been that kind of series. These are two really good teams, two teams that have always been good responding this year after a bad game. And that's why this series is 2-2 going back to Vegas for game 5. You know what's encouraging, Pat, for Edmonton? The power play didn't dominate last night for a change. The 5-on-5 even strength play was better from them. And I've said this all playoffs that a lot of times Edmonton relies on the power play too much. It's an all-time great power play. It is one of the best single-season power plays I've seen in my 30 years probably of watching hockey. I'm going to be 40 in a couple of years. I can't believe it, quite honestly. But, I've watched hockey for 30 years, and I don't know if I've seen a power play for one season on one team be better than this, what Edmonton's rolling out there with McDavid and Draisaitl. And now this unbelievable weapon that they have discovered in Evan Bouchard on the blue line and remember, Pat, Tyson Barrie got traded to Nashville at the trade deadline. That opened up a spot for Evan Bouchard to take over the number one power play unit, to quarterback it, to run it, and get more ice time, become that number one offensive defenseman for Edmonton. Man, is he taking advantage of it. He looks fucking terrific as far as the shot, the movement of the puck on the blue line, getting the rush started on the man advantage. He's been absolutely spectacular. He's ready for this role, and he has thrived. I think he's got 15 points in 10 playoff games for the Edmonton Oilers, and he's a blue liner. Just incredible stuff. And what's even better is that they won that game last night, and Leon Draisaitl didn't do much. No point. Well, one assist. He got an assist on the Bouchard goal, I believe it was, and only one shot on goal. And they still won that game, and that's good. I like to see that. I don't want to always have to see, Draisaitl and McDavid have to carry Edmonton every night. Last night, Bouchard scores on the power play. They get a goal. They finally get Ryan Nugent-Hopkins scoring his first playoff goal. This is a guy that had 100 points in the regular season, had not scored in the playoffs until last night. Nick Bukestad, who they got from Arizona at the trade deadline, a great two-way center for the Oilers, and was good in Arizona. Give them a little bit more depth, win big face-offs, play in all situations. He gets them started last night with the first goal. So the depth forwards, which, look, we had some questions. Where are they so far in this Vegas series? They showed up last night. And if that can continue for Edmonton moving forward, where they don't have to rely on the power play constantly, they get the depth forward stepping up, I think they're going to win this series, quite honestly, against Vegas. As far as I'm concerned. Pat, what did you think of that game last night, Edmonton tying up that series?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, nail it on the head. You lose big one night, you put the head down, put the lunch pail, pack it up, and let's find a way to work harder and get it done the next day. And there's some complacency maybe with that other team. So it shows, and Edmonton on paper is, I think, one of the best teams in the NHL with the talent they have. So if they can find a way to string a few together, I think they will get the series done. They're just too talented not to. And then if you get some of those guys and get them going with the superstars, good things are going to happen. Did you see that slash on?
Well, I was going to save that for the second part of this recap of this game, but we'll go there now. And it was shocking to me, and obviously it was the big story coming out of that game, other than Edmonton winning and tying up the series, and things got heated at the end. Like, there was a line brawl. Now, look, Evander Kane is not absolved of blame on the Edmonton side. He was a fucking shit disturber like you couldn't fucking believe last night. And in this series, he's been that way. He has been a pest. He's been an irritant. He's, jabbed the goalie, came up high with a bit of a cross check on Pietrangelo in game 3 a couple of nights ago. He's been a shit disturber too, and he's stirred the pot a little bit. But none of that compares to what we saw of all people, Alex Pietrangelo. And look, this guy is a great defenseman. He's had a great career, Stanley Cup champion. I'd have him on my team, Pat, any day. This guy, he's that good on the back end, as far as I'm concerned. Power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5, good in terms of offensive contributions, has a decent shot, good in his own end, can lay the body on you sometimes as well, plays a physical brand of hockey. I think he's had a terrific career, and for the most part, he's been gentlemanly, sportsmanship, not really going over the edge, not really having a bad incident on the ice. But last night changed that. That was a bad incident. Yeah. That was awful from Alex Pietrangelo. That was a two-hand baseball bat type chop right over the wrist, arm area, hands area of Leon Draisaitl late in that game, just trying to score into the empty net. Can't do that. He fucked up royally. He did. Yep. And this is a guy that's not used to – I've never seen him really have an incident like that where he's just out of line. He did something where he crossed the line. Last night he did. And I applaud McDavid. We know McDavid's not supposed to fight. McDavid's not supposed to drop his gloves. It's not that you don't want him to. You want him to show that passion, but you worry that if he gets in a fight, he breaks his hand, breaks his arm, breaks his wrist or something, and he's out, and he can't help you, and he's just too important to the team. But he was willing to go after Pietrangelo right after he laid that vicious two-hand chop and slash on Leon Draisaitl, and I give him credit for that. I got a whole new different level of respect for Connor McDavid after what I saw last night, going after Pietrangelo like that. He's like, that's my right-hand man. That's Leon Draisaitl. Don't you put a fucking hand on him. Don't you do that. And he didn't like it. He went after him, and I applaud McDavid for that. And then, of course, we got the Kane and Hague. The Kane and the Hague fight right after that was a hell of a tilt. Back and forth. They were just throwing bombs. It was fun to watch. But the temperature has risen, Make no mistake about it in that Vegas-Edmonton series. They're having a hearing with the Department of Player Safety with Pietrangelo today. I expect him to get a game or two. He will get suspended, in my opinion. He'll get something, probably a 1 game or 2 game suspension. I was just shocked, Pat, that Alex Pietrangelo was the guy that did that. He's been exemplary. He's been like Lady Bing type of, class on the ice, sportsmanship, all that. I never would have thought he would be someone to do something like that. But sometimes that mind, I don't know if it ever got to that level when you played, but sometimes there's just someone that's under your skin a lot, and he's the best player or one of the best players on that Edmonton team. He's torched you early in the series, and you just snap, and you got an opportunity to really give him one. And he just did it in the wrong way. You just cannot swing that stick and slash him like that. And I think Pietrangelo is going to pay the price for it in terms of some kind of suspension.
Yeah, intent to injure like that, you don't want to see that in the game, right? I mean, there is the physical mentality. We know what comes with this game, but there's got to be a certain level of respect no matter where you go in your head and what you do, how mad you get. You don't want to injure some guy ever, right? So I do like to see McDavid stepping in, and then I think the fighter is going to have to regulate that game a little more next game and make sure that something like that doesn't happen again.
I think because it was that vicious that when Pietrangelo returns from his suspension, assuming it's in this series, because if he gets a game, then he's definitely going to play game 6, and there will be a game 6. If he gets 2 games, he may not see the rest of this series because it could end in game 6. Because it's 2-2 right now. There could be one of these 2 teams that wins the next 2 games straight. Although I do think it's probably going 7. And in that case, I think he would play. But would someone challenge Pietrangelo to a fight? We've seen this a bunch, right? You commit a heinous act on the ice against, especially one of the best players on the team. In this case, Leon Draisaitl. Oftentimes, someone on that Oilers team will say to Pietrangelo right before puck drop or before the game, "Hey, we're going," or we're taking care of this right now, and you got to pay your comeuppance. It's like paying your comeuppance kind of thing, where it's like you commit something like that, you got to drop the gloves and pay for the crime, essentially.
Yeah, it's the how they police the league. The players, that's the underwritten rule that the hockey guys know. So, pay the piper, right? I mean, if he's back, he's gonna get something. Obviously, their most important thing is win it now, win the next 2 games, and it's over. But that's just kind of gravy on top, I guess.
That's a good point. A great John Massey's one of our favorites here. I got to put this comment on the screen. Save it for the regular season. Talking about the potential fight that someone goes after Pietrangelo. Can't risk it in game 7. There's some truth to that, no doubt, because that would be obviously a game with your season on the line. Maybe you don't go above and beyond trying to get retribution maybe next year. Park it when you play Vegas in the regular season, like in October or November next year. It's just another night, right? Just another regular season game. Then you can go after Pietrangelo's head, and try to get retribution for it. I want to ask you, Pat, about this as you played and coached the game. This power play for Edmonton specifically, is this one of the best you've ever seen or the best you've ever seen?
I mean, how do you stop it? Everyone's so good with the puck. They seem to, the way they move it, they get in the right positions, but who do you focus on? I mean, everyone, they all can do it. And when that's the case, it's kind of like rely on the goalie. He's got to bail you out, get in the right positions, fight like dogs. But this is a different level, right? I remember back in the day, I think Colorado had that all-star lineup, right? Solani and Korea and all those. I mean, that was unbelievable. But this is right up there with the best I think I've ever seen.
No, there's no doubt. It's impressive. It's really impressive to watch this power play operate. There were some great Pittsburgh power plays in the early days, of course, of Crosby and Malkin. Toronto, even just last couple of years, has had some pretty good power plays. You're right. There's some power plays even in the 90s as well. The 80s Oilers power plays, of course, with Gretzky. But I don't think that's the amazing part is that I think statistically this year's Edmonton power play has outperformed even those 80s Oilers power plays. And that's saying something when you're talking about, one of the greatest offensive teams and dynasties, as well in NHL history. Boston with Bobby Orr, if you want to go way back into the 70s, because I'm a historian. I love the history of the game and watching old classic games from the 70s, which I do on occasion. So definitely you could say that they're up there too as one of the great power plays. But this has been an entertaining series. I love that we're seeing some animosity now develop, and it's down to a best of 3, 2-2 with the Golden Knights and the Oilers. Again, though, that's a positive for Edmonton that they won last night. The power play wasn't the sole reason for it. Their 5-on-5 game was better. And Stuart Skinner for the Edmonton Oilers, he was a lot better in net as well. He's been a good bounce-back goalie throughout his career as well. All right, we have some handicapping to do in a few minutes. We've got 2 games tonight taking place, New Jersey, Carolina, Seattle, Dallas. We will discuss and preview both of those games in just a moment. Hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube, and shout out to our podcast listeners as well. We'll be back to talk about the 2 Thursday night games tonight in just a moment, right after we hear from our great sponsors, Gramco.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta-8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta-8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta-8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code ICEGUYS, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta-8 products today.
All right, it's time to talk Thursday night game 5s in both series tonight. Let's go to Carolina, Kakalaki. Raleigh is the site. New Jersey Devils, Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina looking to finish off the Devils tonight, leading this series 3-1. Carolina minus 130, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. As my colleague Alex said yesterday on the show, remember, Carolina was in this spot in the first round. They were up 3-1, going home for Game 5 against the New York Islanders. They did not finish the job in Game 5. The New York Islanders won in Raleigh in that series and got the series back to Game 6 when Carolina did finish the series at UBS Arena. So, yeah, it does feel like Carolina's got all the momentum, but we've said it all week long. Momentum has not been carrying over from one game to the next in many of these series. The question you have to ask yourself is, does New Jersey have the defensive ability, and can they get timely saves from their goaltenders? I think, Pat, that's a legit question right now, because where does Lindy Ruff go with extreme confidence right now as far as who he starts tonight? Because he went to Akira Schmid after Game 2 of the Rangers series because Vitek Vanacek had struggled so much. And Schmid played great most of that Rangers series, and they got through New York. But he struggled early in this series, the first couple of games in Carolina. Goes back to Vitek Vanacek, who, okay, was all right in Game 3, but he didn't have to be great because they scored 8 goals for him. You know, he got the quote-unquote run support, to steal a baseball term. And then back in Game 4, the Devils' blue line was horrendous in that game. Let's be completely honest there that it's not all on Vanacek, but he again didn't play great. But the team didn't play well in front of him either. But you'd still like to see Vanacek, I think, on a couple of those goals Carolina got in that 6-1 win, make those saves. So if you're in a tough spot, if you're Lindy Ruff, Vanacek's playing with very little confidence. Akira Schmid has not been as good as he was in the Rangers series. Does he still have extreme confidence to play at a high level? And your other options, Mackenzie Blackwood, who, as I've said for years, is usually either injured or when he comes in, he's mediocre at best. He's just not consistent one game to the next. So it's a tough spot to be in for New Jersey going into this must-win game facing elimination. And then you look at Carolina, Pat, and you would think this team, and I thought so too, with no Svechnikov, Pacioretty was lost for the season, Teravainen ends up getting injured as well, that all of a sudden it's going to be more of a challenge for them offensively. After Sebastian Aho and after Martin Necas and after Seth Jarvis, there's a drop-off a little bit. Well, that's gone completely out the damn window now because they're getting all kinds of different contributions now, Carolina, in this series. Jesperi Kotkaniemi has stepped up for them. Stefan Nason has stepped up for them. Jesper Fast. And the biggest one of all is Jordan Martinook. This is incredible what this guy is doing right now for the Carolina Hurricanes because, an afterthought essentially coming into the playoffs. Just, a guy that had 13 goals and 21 assists in the regular season. That's not bad, but you do not expect him to be putting up the numbers he has put up, especially in this New Jersey series. It's funny that, Pat, in the Islanders series, I'm looking at his box score numbers and his statistical game-by-game game log here. He didn't have a point in the first round against the New York Islanders, Jordan Martinook. And here in 4 games against New Jersey, the guy has 9 points. Yeah. 9 points for the Carolina Hurricanes in 4 games in this series against New Jersey. 9 points and 3 goals for the for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's just been absolutely sensational. So that's probably my favorite prop tonight in this game from a player prop standpoint. I have no problems betting a player that's got 9 points and 3 goals in 4 games in this playoff series in terms of finding the offense once again here tonight for Carolina. And once again, the price for Jordan Martinook player props tonight is outstanding. To get a goal plus 350, to get a point plus 112, that is mind-boggling. That is not supposed to happen. And Pat, it goes to what I said to you before. There's no adjustments, especially in hockey. Money line, in terms of sides, totals, there's no adjustments. Prop prices, there's no adjustments. Nobody pays attention. Odds makers don't pay attention to Jordan Martinook and what he's doing right now. A guy that has 9 points in 4 games in this series should not be plus 112, the price for him to get a point tonight. Right. That is just like he's plus money to get a point tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes. So it's absolutely a must to take it right now. Like he just has not been stopped at all here in this series by the New Jersey Devils. Like I said, 9 points in 4 games, and you can bet him at a plus 112 to get a point. That's phenomenal value, definitely. So I'll be on that for sure in this game. Marty Necas is probably worth a look again because he's been certainly lighting it up now offensively in this series. 3 goals and 3 points in the last 3 games for Marty Necas. Like I say, if you're a Presidents of the USA fan of that band from the 90s, I always do the moving to the country, you're gonna meet me, Marty Necas. Yeah, Marty Necas, and he's been great for the Carolina Hurricanes in this series for them. Brent Burns, I'm cooling off on the shots on goal props with Burns. Burns have been going over 2.5, over 3.5 shots on goal repeatedly, but the problem is the shot attempts are there for him still, a high number of shot attempts per game, but he's missing the net lately or getting the shot blocked. And obviously, if that's going to happen, it's not going to count as a shot on goal. So I'm kind of pumping the brakes with that. But Aho, Necas, Martinook are my favorite 3 player props tonight on Carolina in this game. And as far as New Jersey goes, I like Jack Hughes over shots on goal for sure. It's a must-win. It's the best forward on this team, obviously. And he has actually been trending over his shots on goal away from home more often than at home. So Jack Hughes over 3.5 shots on goal, minus 108. It's not a big price. You don't have to lay a big price or big juice, big vigorish, if you will, with that bet. So Jack Hughes over 3.5 shots on goal, I think is a good look tonight in this one as well. As far as the side goes, look, I know Carolina, they look like they're in control. They're the veteran team. This is a young, carefree Devils team that you wonder if this is now their time to bow out and go home here in Game 5. But the pattern has been too strong where these teams that lose the previous game come out strong. So I'm going to go with New Jersey in the first period here tonight against Carolina. You get a nice price with it. Devils first period money line is plus 110 in this game. I'm going to take a shot with that. I don't think I trust them for the full game to win, but I trust them to be, give their best. And I think if New Jersey's going to have a chance to win this game, it's got to start with that first period, the first 20 minutes being ready to play, being cleaning it up defensively, which they have to do after Game 4, and maybe getting that first goal. And they've been better on the road than at home, as someone in our chat's saying right now. They've been the much better road team, New Jersey, all year. So I'm going to trust them in the first period. I don't know if I trust them for the full game, but I'll trust them in the first period here. Plus 110 first period money line here on New Jersey, and I'm definitely going over the total. Once again, we've seen 4 games in this series, 4 overs. Every game has gone over the total. There's been no adjustment. The total is still 5.5 in this game. So I like over 5.5 minus 120 here with the Devils and the Hurricanes. And also because it's an elimination game, we've talked about the third period over. I'm going to jump in on that as well. Third period over because the team that's facing elimination is trailing in the third period. They'll pull the goalie with 5 or 6 minutes to go, and then you have a chance for a goal explosion in the third period. So as usual, riding that angle, looking at the third period over in an elimination game once again here with New Jersey and Carolina. Pat, what do you think here? Game 5, Devils, Canes.
Yeah, I think Devils get it done. I think they'll win this battle. They're going to lose the war, unfortunately. But I think, it's just based on what has been going on. It seems like it's going to swap again, and New Jersey's going to find a way to get it done, and it's probably going to be a big scoring game. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think especially early, New Jersey's the way to go here. And that first period, look, and it's just based on the way this series has gone now, the last couple. New Jersey, lost game 2, came back home. They won the first period. Carolina lost badly in game 3. They won the first. They actually tied the first period, but then they took over in the second period after that and won that game convincingly. So I like that first period look on New Jersey. And like I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it as far as the total is concerned. Every game's gone over 5.5 goals in this. I think the first period over might be worth a look because if I'm not mistaken, both games in Carolina, the first period over actually also cashed in. And again, when you're looking at the first period over in tonight's game, it's only minus 108 at FanDuel. So it's a very, very cheap price there with that. And I'm just looking back at Carolina here in this series, the first 2 home games that they won 5-1 and 6-1. It was 2-0 Carolina after the 5-1 game. Actually, the 6-1 game, it was a scoreless first period, but the 5-1 game, it did go over in the first. But I still like a little bit on the first period over, but certainly the full game over 5.5, like I said, is a perfect 4-0 so far in this series. All right, second game tonight on the slate. It's Seattle and Dallas. We've got the Dallas Stars minus 190 here, home favorites, a big number here. For the Dallas Stars. And this total, 5.5 still as well, although there's some books do have it at 6. So if you're betting the total, and if you like what I do, and that's another over here, it's you make sure you shop around and you find a sports book that has the 5.5 still out there right now. We kind of both think, Alex and I, and Alex said this yesterday too on the show, that Dallas, we love them in game 4. And obviously they got it done. And we do a live betcast, Pat, every Tuesday night where we're watching the games. We just have our beers in hand, pint of beer. It's just like a bar atmosphere, pub atmosphere. We just watch the games. We place live bets every Tuesday night when the games are going on. We had Dallas in the second period, over 1.5 in the second period, and both teams to score at plus 200 in the second period of game 4 between Seattle and Dallas. And we hit all 3. And we're all just we're all a very happy bunch of betcast people that night watching that unfold. Definitely a big boost to the bankroll, that's for sure. But that game was great. Dallas in that game, the over 5.5 in that one. They tied up the series 2-2. It was a much better effort from the Stars in that game. Miro Heiskanen, there was some big fear that he would be out after game 3 of that series. And he came back. He played in game 4 with the face shield. And he's just so important, Pat, to the Dallas Stars because this guy is their number 1 defenseman. He's their best puck carrier, puck mover, offensive-minded defenseman, good in all areas. It's irreplaceable. And there's a pretty big drop-off the rest of the blue line after Miro. So the fact he was able to come back and play in game 4 was huge. Jared McCann came back from his injury last game against Dallas. And remember, that was the injury he suffered when Cale Makar hit him into the boards in the Colorado series. But Jared McCann didn't look totally 100%. Like either that or they were, easing him back in because he didn't play as many minutes, as he normally does. It'll be interesting to see if he gets back to, a higher level of ice time here tonight in this game. This is a tough one because, this has been kind of a back and forth series so far. But this also could be Dallas, Minnesota, the sequel, where Dallas was down 2-1. And then they just took over the rest of the series. They tied the series. They won game 5 at home, and then they won the series and ended it in Minnesota in game 6. I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. They're going to win tonight, and then they could wrap up the series in Seattle in game 6. But I also admit that I think Seattle's going to be a tougher team to finish and put away than Minnesota. This team just doesn't flinch. They've got incredible speed, line 1 through 4. They're all interchangeable. You might as well not even number, Pat, the lines for Seattle, because first line can contribute, second line, third line, fourth line. They've all made an impact for this team. The blue line's been solid. Philip Grubauer has certainly played his best hockey of the season in between the pipes. So this team's not going away. What I am going to do here in this game is I'm going to take Dallas. It's kind of like I can't see either one of these bets losing. I'm on the over, as you know, 5.5 minus 120. Every game's gone over in this series, 4 straight. I'm back to the well with over 5.5 minus 120 here with Seattle and Dallas. But I'm going to take Dallas -1, minus 120. That's the -1 puck line option. But I'm also going to sprinkle a little bit here on the team total for Seattle, over 2.5 in this game. Because, Seattle's a good response team. And I think if they do win this game, there's no way they're not scoring at least 3. I can't see them winning 2-1 or 1-0. If Seattle's going to win this game, they're going to have to score at least 3 goals. So the Seattle team total for this game is a very reasonable price. They are off the loss, so you would expect them to have a sense of urgency tonight. Over 2.5 for the Seattle Kraken team total is only -105. I think it's a pretty good bet here in this one. So what do you think here in this one, Pat? Game 5, Seattle-Dallas.
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I do think Dallas is actually going to get it done. Just too many vets, too much team environment where they're going to take over. Seattle, like you said, you could take any number off. All lines kind of look the same to me, so they're going to have high octane, but I think it's going to be back and forth, and the vets are going to get done on Dallas.
And you know what the thing, too, about Seattle, Pat, is that Seattle's the fourth line. They've won them games this year, the fourth line. And that's been what's pretty incredible about the Kraken. And it's a great point by Neil. Neil's saying, why do you do this shit? So confusing. Whether I take the money line or the puck line on Dallas, but the team total over on Seattle. I don't like doing that very often. But there you go, Neil. 5-3 Dallas. I could see it. And if that happens, everything wins. So I'm just looking at attacking it different ways. And I feel Seattle can lose this game and still score 3 goals. That's why I'm approaching it this way from a betting perspective, with Dallas -1 and the Seattle team total over 2.5 here tonight, plus the full game over 5.5. And as far as props go for this game, you mentioned the veterans of Dallas, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn over shots on goal. Jamie Benn, I believe, has gone over his shots on goal every home game here in the playoffs. So that's probably a good look here. Jamie Benn over shots on goal. I would look at, Ben, Seguin, and Hintz are probably goal scorer prop candidates. I always say I'm always interested in Wyatt Johnston, this 19-year-old rookie, straight from the Windsor Spitfires of the Ontario Hockey League, Pat, right into the Dallas Stars lineup this year. And he's had such a great season in his first year for them. And if you trust him to find the back of the net tonight, you can get a very good price on it, around plus 320. So a real good price. On the Seattle side, Eberle, Schwartz had a really good game last time out for the Seattle Kraken. The thing with Seattle is it's hard to pinpoint 1 or 2 goal props because, certain nights Eberle and Beniers and Schwartz could lead the ways. Other nights Morgan Geekie and Yanni Gord and Oliver Bjorkstrand could lead the way. I mean, they've just got different players that can contribute to the Seattle Kraken success every single night because of that 4-line depth they have. So that's why if you're going to be looking at betting player props on the Seattle side, you'd probably want to keep the amount on each bet smaller and maybe go with 7 or 8 different players as opposed to bigger bets on just 2 or 3 players. You know what I mean? You want to sprinkle things around a little bit because it's always someone different that could step up and get the job done for the Seattle Kraken. It's pretty amazing that we just see these expansion teams. Here's Seattle, second year in the league. They're in the second round of the playoffs. We saw what happened with Vegas. Their very first year, they get to the Stanley Cup final. It's just amazing, Pat, that these expansion teams now, they're not horseshit for 5-10 years straight at the beginning of their existence. No, they can be good, and in a lot of cases right away.
Well, it seems like just like the Florida team too, you get those guys maybe not top tier guys that are, get another chance or want to prove themselves, and they fight like dogs. It's the same mentality that it seems to work in the playoffs. Like I said, I think it's the biggest difference between regular season and playoffs, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, you just need players to be able to elevate their game every year. And the team that wins the Stanley Cup, they've got players that you just don't see much from them in the regular season. But all of a sudden in the playoffs, there they are, big overtime goal or big tying goal in the third period or 2-point night or something. And maybe they had a mundane, run of the mill regular season, but they are able to step things up at playoff time. And those are the teams that have the success. All right, before we wrap up the show and get into best bets to wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys, we do want, since it's early enough, there's still a lot of possibilities. Well, we can put you on the spot here a little bit, Pat, and say, as of right now, who's winning the West, who's winning the East, who's in the Stanley Cup final, and who's winning it?
Oh, man. Oh, I mean, I think it's going to be Carolina, and I think it's going to be, I mean, I'm going to go out and say, Edmonton. And I think Edmonton's going to get it done. Let's bring it back to Canadian Stanley Cup.
First since 1993. It was the Montreal Canadiens in 1993. That's the last time a Canadian team has hoisted the Stanley Cup. It'll be 30 years, actually. It's perfect timing, you're right? 30 years ago, this would be a great year to end the drought. Edmonton still got a lot of work to do because this Vegas team is a good team. They're not going to go away, but I've got Edmonton and Dallas in the next round in my bracket. That's the one thing that's still intact with my Stanley Cup playoff bracket that I filled out before the season, is that I got Edmonton, Dallas in the West. I had the Rangers and the Bruins in the East final, so that's definitely out the window right now. I'm sure a lot of people did as well, but I do have Carolina Stanley Cup futures from before the season to win. Same with Edmonton. So I would totally sign off on your Stanley Cup final that you just called right there. It would certainly make me a richer man.
Well, good. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, we will. Carolina, look, I had doubts about Carolina, Pat, coming into the playoffs.
Injuries,
I thought for sure injuries, and all of a sudden they didn't add anybody at the trade deadline as well. They didn't. They stood pat. I don't care. Someone said, well, yeah, they did. They added Jesse Puljujärvi. Get the fuck out of here, Jesse Puljujärvi. Come on. He played with Connor McDavid for several years in Edmonton, and he couldn't get anything done with McDavid playing with him on his line, and he still couldn't put the puck in the net. Connor McDavid makes a broomstick look good and play well on the ice with him, and he couldn't even get something out of Puljujärvi. So there were people that saying, yeah, but they got Jesse. No. And he's not even playing now. He was a healthy scratch the other night for the Carolina Hurricanes. So they basically stood pat, at the trade deadline, Carolina. So that concerned me. It's like you're seeing Boston load up and the Rangers load up and Toronto load up and all these East teams, and yet they're all out. Well, Toronto might be out. They're still alive, but Boston's out, Rangers are out, and here's Carolina. They didn't add anybody, but all of a sudden you got Martinook in particular and Fost and all these depth forwards stepping up in the absences of Pacioretty, Svechnikov, and Teravainen. And meanwhile, Aho and Nason and Natchez have been phenomenal, and now they don't, they've got enough offense, and they've shown it now.
They just look, as an overall team, they look confident. They look like they got the swagger, and they look like they're getting it done. So, and I feel like if they can wrap this up sooner than later, they're going to get a little more rest too, and maybe they'll run into a hot team, but that rest does pay off in the longevity of these long series. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing to factor in, second round and even in the conference finals coming up as well. If you can get these series over with quickly, this is when rest really kind of matters now, as the playoff air miles, if you will, and the tax on the body. Someone that's now in fitness, Pat, that. The tax on the body and the physical punishment. You got to have some rest and some downtime, certainly in the Stanley Cup playoffs at some point. So finishing off the series a little quicker is sometimes definitely a thing that's going to help you out in the meantime. Are you sold on Freddie Anderson, though, their goalie? I want to say one thing about Freddie, okay? Freddie has not always been a great playoff goalie. Freddie Anderson in Anaheim, Toronto, and now here in Carolina. He's had a lot of injuries. He's older. I find Carolina is one of the best teams in the NHL protecting their goalies. They don't they limit shots on goal. They're always up there, one of the fewest shots on goal allowed per game teams in the NHL. They don't give up as many high danger scoring chances as a lot of the other teams in the league. They do a really good job in front of their goaltending. I still think that if you put Freddie Anderson on another team where they're a little bit more loose in the defensive zone, he's not nearly as good. But he's on the right team right now. Carolina defends quite well, one of the best.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to steal a game for you, but I don't think he's going to make huge mistakes either. And that's where you nailed it. Carolina's D is just so good. So if they do, that's why I'd give the edge to Edmonton if they make it to the finals against Carolina, just because I feel like Edmonton will find a way to get a little more shots, high percentage shots on, and find a way to expose him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to point out, too, the Dallas game, Mason Marchment, upper body game time decision for Dallas tonight, and Joni Hakanpää, lower body injury game time decision as well. So there are a couple questionables here for the Dallas Stars. Hakanpää on the blue line and Mason Marchment up front for the Dallas Stars. But again, game time decisions, they haven't been ruled out here tonight as of yet. And then for Seattle, it's Daniel Sprong, the main question mark here for this game. He was out for Tuesday against Dallas, or against Dallas. We'll see if he returns tonight for the Kraken here in Game 5. All right, that was awesome stuff. We will be right back to wrap this up and give our best bets. 161 live viewers. Hit the like button. Make sure you check out patreon.com/iceguys. It's just $10 a month for that, for the bonus content, our daily Ice Guys show betting card, goalie charts, totals charts, you name it, posted there daily. I just uploaded 2 interviews, Colton Tubert and Brandon DeFazio, on the Ice Guys Patreon page just the last few days. So make sure you check that out, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. And remember, our next Ice Guys live betcast is next Tuesday. So make sure you join us for that, May the 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. To be determined which games will be Tuesday night, depending on how the series are going. But we plan to have a betcast that night as of right now, next Tuesday. So looking forward to that for sure. And again, if you didn't watch the Jason Williams episode that we did 2 days ago on Tuesday, it was great stuff, getting into the Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks teams he played on. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it already. All right, we will wrap it up in a moment with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, we are back, and it is time for best bets here to wrap it up for this Thursday edition. Pat, what are you most confident in tonight here? These 2 games, what do you like most?
I mean, I do think take the over on the Dallas game. That's going to be a high-scoring game for sure. I think that's going to happen, and I think New Jersey is going to bounce back. Both of those, based on what we saw statistic-wise, going game to game, I think those are pretty good bets.
There you go. 2 best bets. There you go, New Jersey. And he's going full game with that. I'm going first period. Pat's going full game. Let's hope both of them cash there. New Jersey plus 110 for the full game against Carolina, and Pat likes the over 5.5 minus 120 Dallas and Seattle. Best bets for this Thursday. My best bet, I'm going to go right back to Dallas, Seattle, over 5.5 here, minus 120. There's been finally we see some sixes with the total at some sports books here, but 5.5. Make sure you shop around. Hopefully you can find the 5.5. But again, every game's gone over, and the regular season as well. If you combine regular season and playoff games, Dallas and Seattle head to head, all 7 games have gone over the total. The 3 in the regular season, and all 4 games here in this playoff series so far. So back to the well we go with it. Seattle, Dallas, over 5.5, minus 120 for my best bet. Pat, this was awesome. Hope you enjoyed the show, and thanks for joining us.
You bet, Ian. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely. And a reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the podcast when you can't watch the show live. For our special guest, Pat Gillis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.